You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Hey, no, that's not going to work today.
Hey, folks. Beans and Dice podcast. I'm your host, Carlos.
I'm Rob.
Thanks for helping me out on that. Hey, folks, it's Carlos. I'm a little under the weather today. If you are anywhere in the state of Florida, I'm certain you've been impacted by the pollening. It's one of those seasons that we have here in Florida where we get a little bit of a cold snap and then it warms up a little bit and the trees all think it's spring. So they just start dropping their pollen to the window, to the walls, right? You know, going yin-yang twins all over everything.
Yeah.
And it every year it hits me hard, and it hit me hard this week. So it's probably going to be a quicker show tonight as we enjoy some quick chats about gaming, what we've been up to, what you've been up to. And I'm just going to go ahead and open up that phone line now since it'll be a quicker show. We'll just get calls in immediately.
Cool. Yeah, I think our landscaping people were here today, and it was like they had a pile of all the pollen that had fallen. They blew it all, and it was a giant mound, literally a mound. And they had a truck that came by and sucked it up. It was so much. It was bad.
I don't miss those days at all.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Hey, you're still snowboarding up there, aren't you?
Heck yeah, man.
Nice. It'd be nice. I haven't skied in so long. I would love that right now. So.
Well, let's get some topics going for the folks at home. I'm going to start with.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
with a little bit of Brandon Sanderson conversation. I want to keep you all up to date on where I am with the reading. So I just finished the second book of the Way of Kings. What is that? That book series. Stormlight Archives. That's the one.
Okay.
The Stormlight Archives. So I just finished the second book of that. And I got to say, I don't know if I'm going to go farther. Like, I feel like... Like we went from, I guess spoilers. This book's been out for like 15 years. Okay,
exactly.
That's on you.
I think it's past the yeah.
We went from like fantasy setting, kind of look at these peasant people, to like dang near Jedis now. Like we went like full on Jedis. Like when it comes to the ramping of the magic and the power creep of the main characters, and it's like, how much more can we get to? Like, I don't know. It's going a little jumping the shark when it comes to the amount of power that the main character has now. And I mean, he's like freaking Goku up there. Whoa! Eyes glowing, flying and stuff. And I'm like,
jumping the shark in the second book instead of like the 15th book.
Right. Like, I just don't know if it's worth it or not. But if y'all folks in the chat at all, if are fans of Brandon Sanderson in the series, let me know. Is it worth pushing on into further books in the Stormlight Archives, or should I jump back into the Alchemy series?
So, I mean, are you the kind of person that typically reads a series straight through, or do you mind bouncing through? Because sometimes I like, if I have two series, I bounce back and forth between them and things like that. So
I'm too ADD to stick to one for too long.
Gotcha.
I will bounce back and forth, but a lot of them I might do 2 out of the 5 and never go back to it again.
And that's cool too. I think that's the case, because I mean, how many people have read Dune, right? But how many people have never read Dune Messiah and Prophets of Dune? And like, as long as you read, you kind of read the one that's the more popular and then move on to different series, especially if it's not enjoyable.
I was actually thinking about that, picking up, because I went ahead and restarted my Audible because of the Brandon Sanderson. Like, I wanted to get my credit a month.
Right.
And I guess one of the tough parts of saying no to Brandon Sanderson again is talk about like bang for your buck on credit. Am I wrong?
40, you're getting 40 hours for one credit.
Easy. Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like I have to buy the next book because that $1 per hour is insanely great.
Quality over quantity, my friend.
Yeah. I do the free app through the library and just get audiobooks.
Yeah, that's true. You can do that too. Yeah.
Now you might have to wait like 6 weeks for the next book or something like that, so that's why I bounce around. I'll bounce between 3 or 4 different series, because you might have to wait for, even though it's an audiobook, the library only owns a copy or 2 copies or whatever. So it might take you like, 6 weeks to get the next thing. So I'm on the 3rd book of the Red Rising.
Okay, good.
Yep. And then I'm on like book 14 of the Harry Dresden Chronicles, or Dresden Files. So
nice.
Yeah.
Is the Dune book worth doing as an audio book, you think?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. And you know me, like I think I've told you before, I like to read. I actually sometimes will have the physical book and listen to the audiobook at the same time. I had a vision problem as a child, so my eyes don't move at the same speed. And so I like reading with the audiobook because it makes me read faster. So, and I think the Dune one, especially the Dune one, because crazy pronunciations and all
I was
the
going to say,
different-
do they pronounce everything
they
correctly?
pronounce
in that
everything
book?
correctly,
Okay, cool.
and it makes it quite. I like that too, especially like with like Dune or some of those books. I like to listen to the audiobook because you can hear how it should be pronounced instead of you just making it up in your own head.
So when we play Dune Imperium, I could be like, actually.
Actually,
All right, I'm going to take you up on that. I didn't use my credit yet. I've actually went back into my library and started listening to Jurassic Park again.
Oh,
that's
nice.
a good one. That's
the
such a good
90s.
book. Yeah.
Holy crap, man. I love how the 90s are talking to me in that book.
Yeah.
Like I can feel them talking about modems and internet, like as if it's, it's so new and so cool, and there's supercomputers that they're talking about.
That's just funny because my wife and I are watching the new Quantum Leap series on Peacock, right? And because you leap within your own time frame, right? So like, in the old Quantum Leap from the 80s, they were jumping into 60s and 70s, whatever. Now he's jumping into the 90s and 2000s. So like there's episodes and they're jumping in. I'm like, oh crap, that song was popular when I was in high school, or like they speak to the 90s so well in that show. It's good. So yeah, I kind of feel you on that very much.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
In the chat, good evening, Christian Adventure Gamer. That's our boy
Hey.
Daniel out of Indiana.
Mhm.
Nice to see you in the chat.
So,
All right, fellas, what do y'all got?
Before anybody calls, go ahead.
No, Mike, you go.
No, go, Mike, go.
I was going to say, tomorrow I'm driving down to Vancouver, Washington, because Saturday is the pickup day for the Vindication Chronicles expansion, and Orange Nebula they're doing a pickup day for the Kickstarter stuff. So you get to meet all the devs and kind of hang out with them. And
Oh, man.
yeah, so I'm
So
driving
instead of getting
down
it
there.
mailed, you're just driving down to pick it up directly.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay. Well, originally my wife and I were supposed to go, but then my wife's mom had a little tumble there, and my wife had to fly to Florida. So
Oh, man.
I'm going down there by myself. Going to be hanging out for the whole weekend in Vancouver and enjoying the sights. And yeah, going to be getting the Archive of the Ancients box, which puts a lot of the big boxes that are coming out nowadays to shame. So should be.
Where exactly are you putting that box?
Who the hell knows, man? I don't know. I'll make some room somewhere somehow. But
You know what that reminds me of? Stratomatic Baseball does what they call opening day. And I've got a few of the Stratomatic games. Stratomatic Baseball sets all their players up. It's a baseball simulation board game. And they set up all their players based on how they did in the last, I believe it's 5 seasons. They use an aggregate of their 5-season stats. So every season, all the players are updated. All the MLB pitchers, every single player. But they do an opening day in February where they release last year's season. So at the end of after the World Series and everything, October, September, they do opening day in February when they release all the new cards, and the line is out around the back of the building. People drive from all over the country to this huge event at the Stratomatic headquarters up in New York, I think it is, to pick up the set, the new set.
that's cool.
That's what that reminds me of. I can imagine being in line with other like-minded individuals who have the same,
Likes and
yes,
interests and
just meeting up with some randos and having some awesome conversations. So, Mike, I'm real happy for you about that.
yeah, man, I'm psyched. And they're doing it at like a kind of like a bar or something, so it's kind of like from 12 to 6. There's no lines. It's just like, hey, come hang out. We're going to have some games set up and pick up your Kickstarter. And
So you think it's mostly people from like the Pac Northwest that are coming, or are there people coming from further away?
I don't think people are coming from too far away. And then you've also got Dice Tower West happening
in Vegas
soon. So I don't
like
know if
next
people
week,
are. Yeah, I don't know if people are really going to be traveling around that much, but yeah. So I'm excited.
Nice, very cool.
And what are you picking up exactly?
It's going to be the Vindication Chronicles and Hamlet It's like there's like 2 expansions that they did, and then they released a big box to hold everything like from their past games and everything. That's what they call the Archive of the Ancients. So it's got like all the inserts and plastic trays, so you can set it up a little bit quicker. And
So is this all one game, or is it multiple games now stored in one big box?
it's like the main game with
Okay.
all the expansions and everything from the past. And
You have to try to
current.
you have to do an unboxing or video of that.
Yeah, it should be pretty
at
cool.
least get us some video or pictures to share the
Like
next time you're on about the
size
experience.
Yeah, like the size comparison too, right?
Oh yeah, I definitely plan on breaking out all the big boxes and throwing it on the table there. Yeah, so that's one of the expansions, and then the other one is Chronicles.
Now, you taught us Vindication at Armada Games.
Well, taught is a very loose term on that one. I was referencing the rule book quite often on that one.
We learned and played well.
Yeah, I hadn't played in a long time then, but
That's crazy. That's a lot of game right there.
yeah, and what the Chronicles does is it actually adds, like, when you go into, part of the game is like when you go to the end, you get more followers, or when you decide to do some, you're just kind of like picking up cards. Well, with this, you're actually, you're getting options of what to do. So you're kind of like building a story for your character. And then by the end, you've created this unique story, because I've always looked at this game as like a story. It's not, a lot of people say it's pushing cubes.
It can be.
Yeah, but I mean, and I even remember you, Carlos, when you were saying, well, it's kind of loose on the, I was like, yeah, but when you really think about it, you were thrown overboard for being, a scumbag. You washed up on this shore, and your companion found you, this guy found you on the beach, and then you start, exploring through this island, uncovering all these new locations, and, you're trying to vindicate yourself, and, you don't always have to do that, but yeah. So anyway, this is going to add a whole layer of stories to it, and then the Hamlet and the other expansion, it adds like small little villages that are like separate from the main board that you can now go to, and yeah. So it's I'm excited because this is one of my favorite games.
Wayne, have you had a chance to play this game?
I haven't. No.
Okay. And Mike, I know we're joking a little bit about how I felt about its lack of
Yeah, and I understand that.
congruity between the theme and the game. I don't know if that's a word, but I think what I mentioned, one of the things that I mentioned about it was it really felt like somebody worked real hard to create this fictional world.
Right. Yeah.
But then the game itself was very mechanically focused. I don't know if that...
No, I'm
like
with you
there's
there.
this layer of this world building that happened here. Somebody
Right.
took a lot of time to name these places, to build these monsters, right? To have the locations on this island that we explored.
Mm-hmm.
But in the actuating of the game, I don't know if that's a word, it felt like just pulling levers, cube swapping.
Yeah, and there's I think 3 or 4 things you have to do every round, and then you have 5, optional things that you can do, and you can do them in any order. But I get what you're saying. It's kind of like, okay, I'm going to move my 3 spaces, then I'm going to visit this place, then I'm going to, do this, and I'm going to push these cubes over here, and that's my turn. I understand that.
And I guess maybe the piece that I'm missing is, so like Scythe, I could say the same thing for Scythe.
Sure.
Right? The difference is when you pull a Scythe encounter card, there's like this flavored text,
right,
and this fluff there that you can stop a moment, read, and gain something from.
Now you're going to get that with the expansions.
That's what was missing. Was like, hey, there's someone spent a lot of time on this. Help me enjoy that piece a little more.
Sure.
Because I loved this system that they built here with the hexes, where you don't stop at a hex, you stop at like a triangle of
Between
3 hexes.
3, yeah, right.
And you get the choice of visiting one of those 3 locations whenever you stop there. So there was a lot to like. I like the the combining of the different aspects in the game, the different spheres. I can't remember what they're called, but they were all colors, and the colors were like Roy G. Biv, where it was easy to figure out what you're doing because, I know that, yellow and green make blue, right? Or yellow and blue make green. Listen, I am doped up on meds
That's all
right
good.
now.
We all
got
get it.
You got it.
But
that brings
they
up,
did a good job of that.
Yeah.
But I think that brings up a huge point too, is like there's this intersection of games, like board games, right? The hobby gaming that we all play, right? And then there's the story narrative, right? And years ago there wasn't necessarily a big crossover between board games and narrative. You had train games, you had war games, and 18xx and those kind of things. And then as the hobby has grown, people are wanting more and more narrative in the games, and so where the gameplay and narrative cross is often an interesting thing. It's like Rob and I had an interesting conversation in our chat message last week when we were talking about Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, how my wife and I aren't really huge fans of it because there's a lot of narrative there, but the gameplay is on rails where you're going from your mission to mission. There's not enough open world for us where because we're role play gamers, we're D&D players, we're all kinds of crazy role playing games, and so there's a cross for us where we like it. I like Gloomhaven, I like Jaws of the Lion, it's very fun, but there's a disconnect for us because we're like, well, but I don't want to necessarily go right to this next mission. I want to go explore this other area of the city and do this, So, but that's an interesting concept too. Is like, where does as games get bigger and the narrative and the adventure game and the campaign games come in and all these things, where does gameplay and narrative cross? And where, I guess for each person it's different, right? Where do you want more narrative and less gameplay, and sort of where's that balance?
Have you played Sleeping Gods?
I have not, but Carlos has. Yeah.
Yes, we have. We've got over a half dozen plays, I think, and then they just kind of died out. That is definitely not on rails.
Right. No, that's what I was going to say. If you want a game that you can go anywhere, from what I understand, that's the game.
That's the one. Yeah.
I like that conversation though about the intersection of theme and mechanisms, finding that right balance, because although I will say I am a lover of Ameritrash, I have really shied away from a lot of that lately because I have found games that give me good story, but also challenging mechanisms to make me feel like I actually solved the puzzle, not just walk through a random dungeon and dice decided what happened.
So think about
Flying Frog Productions, right? What are some of the games they do? Last Night on Earth.
No,
the one I'm thinking of. Yes,
I own it and I love it because it's horrible. It's horribly awesome. Oh my god! God, what am I? My brain.
Zeno loves it to death. I can't remember. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, yeah. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
So like that's on that other spectrum of Vindication, which is, Vindication is closer to the middle. These Flying Frog games are like, hey, Ameritrash all the way, chuck dice, you have no control. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right. So finding that balance, and hopefully this expansion will do it for you, Mike.
Fortune and Glory.
That's the one. Fortune and Glory.
Yeah, that game is good when you play it cooperative with like 2 or 3 people versus like the Nazis or versus the mob or whatever. But like, never play it with 8 theater people where everyone's doing their own person. There's a story there, but no, I love that game. That's a great game because you can create your own narrative there. So,
Christian Adventure Gamers in the chat. He's talking about Chemical Overload from Kickstarter by Rebirth Board Games. I'm not familiar. Anybody familiar with that?
No.
I haven't heard of that.
Looks like he's going to get a video up for that, so maybe we can become. He's got a demo copy. Okay, so that's why it's something that's probably coming up to Kickstarter soon.
Yeah. Sweet.
There you go, Daniel.
And I think you have got like, so in that whole theme versus mechanics, like, so Castles of Burgundy and Brass, right? 2 of my favorite games of all time. There's no theme there. I mean, there is theme, but there's not narrative. And I think there's a difference between theme and narrative, right? And so like Vindication, Stuffed Fables, Sleeping Gods, these are games with a narrative, right? And that's, I think, a different sort of path than theme, right? Because you have theme and mechanics and you have narrative. And if you have a game that's built on narrative, where you want it to go as far as gameplay versus the story. It's kind of like when I play a video game. I'm at the age where I'm not as fast as I used to be with my thumbs. So when I play a video game now, I don't want to be challenged. So I'm playing the Spider-Man game or I'm playing Last of Us.
Lowest level of difficulty. I'm with you. On the line, we got Ron Frazier from Hotlanta.
There we go.
What setting do you set your video games to, Ron Frazier?
I don't play video games anymore.
Good for you.
That's an answer.
There you go.
After that,
Talk
So
to
what's
us,
going
Ron
on,
Frazier.
Ron?
yeah. So I missed the first probably 10 or 15 minutes of the call. Did you guys talk about the official announcement for the Unmatched Adventures?
We did not. I introduced with how I am completely under the weather. Rob is at a golf tournament. It's going to be a short show tonight. And then I tried to start a conversation, but then my voice went out. So, but I saw that in the news. I will pull it up now because that's what we teased last week. And you found the article that gets more into depth. What do you know?
Well, there's a co-op mode that you can play with any of the unmatched fighters, which is cool. You can play with the fighter in any other sets, of course. You can fight with the map with any other set, which is also cool. So there's a lot of versatility in this Unmatched Adventures.
That's everything we were hoping for.
Well, yeah, except I'm not excited about the fighters. Like, because I just don't know. Like, I know who Tesla is, who's one of the fighters, but other than that, like, I'm sure they'll play fine and everything like that.
If they don't have Tesla versus Edison, I'm out. As Thomas said, like, I need my epic rap battles of history. I need my Tesla versus Edison.
Oh man, that was some great YouTube in there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
are you disappointed, Ron, because you were anticipating one thing and they just went somewhere else with it?
I don't know if you remember from last week's conversation. I wasn't excited about this whole co-op mode thing in the first place, and like, and I don't know if this announcement has moved the needle for me. So I'm not. I get what they're doing. I get this with the market that they're trying to capture and everything like that. And like unmatched diehards, and I think they'll be down for whatever. But for me, I'm like, I think this is going to be a miss.
Are you going to give it a try though? That's
Like,
the question.
Honestly, I'd rather wait to get the PDF of the rules to see what the co-op rules look like.
Sure.
And I was even thinking maybe I just use the co-op rules in other games if I can swing it. And
I mean,
I don't know. I got plenty of my match.
I'm a fan of the villains, though. I mean, I'm a fan more of the minions, although my father of an 8-year-old brain is viewing little yellow guys with glasses. But come on, the Jersey Devil, the Skunk Ape, come on, sign me up.
I want a wood booger in there.
The Blob, I mean, that's cool, man.
Yeah, I'm not into that weirdness when it comes to like pulp.
Cryptids. All right.
Yeah. So
I'm not sure what to call that era, but it's that, the giant ant, those movies from
Like the 50s
the
and
pulpy
60s, right?
type movies.
Yeah.
Pulp,
Oh, there you go,
Pulp.
Pulp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Pulp. It's to get the
Pulp.
the Land of the
Pulp
Lost,
Adventure.
the Journey to Center
Right.
of the Earth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Back when animation was stop motion,
Stop motion.
and they would kind of supplant the actor in front of it, and they're looking like they're getting eaten.
yeah.
That's what I think the feel is. Which you're right, Ron. It didn't make me more excited. I know we were excited last week about the thought of it. It did not make me desire it more. it didn't turn me away, but it didn't make me say, "Oh yeah." It made me say, "Oh, okay. So this is the first iteration. Okay." We'll see. Like, I'm not into this theme.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry, go ahead, Ron. My bad.
but as
It was delayed there.
as you can see, somebody on this call is excited about this theme. Which is cool. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty big news, right? Because restoration games, they're doing it big. Math is very popular. So
as someone that hasn't really got into Unmatched, right? It for some reason it didn't really appeal to me. I didn't even look at this until tonight, really. And like, as someone that is a fan of kind of that pulpy atmosphere, I played some pulp RPGs and stuff, and like,
Fortune and Glory.
Fortune and Glory. I like those. Yeah. I mean, I look at that list. I'm like, this is, I'll give this a try. This probably actually interests me more than most of the other Unmatched sets that I've seen. So, I mean, I think there's an audience there. I mean, it may not, I understand, Ron, that it may not be the characters may not be singing to you, but I think there's a definite audience for the cryptids and the pulpiness of this that I think is going to be appealing, especially for a cooperative game. I think would definitely work because that kind of atmosphere works with it.
Yeah. So,
well, hold on, Ron. I'm gonna interrupt because good point, Wayne. At least it's not Cthulhu. Like, I'm just done with Cthulhu. So, at least it wasn't Cthulhu. Okay.
Right.
Amen to that.
Back to Ron.
Oh my goodness.
Because that could have been easily Cthulhu.
Yes. Absolutely. It's kind of like, it's the layup of a board game thing, right? Like, so, I was going to say, Wayne, so you mentioned that you like pulp and play pulp RPGs. Did you ever play Spirit of the Century?
Yes, I did. I think I actually have it on the thing over here. Yes, hold on. I got the book. Hold on. There we go. Spirit of the Century.
Nice.
Don't. I got them all, man. But yeah, no, we've done Savage Worlds and we've done Hollow Earth Expeditions and Spirit of the Century. Yeah, so we've done a bunch of various pulp RPGs and stuff over the years. It's a fun genre to role play in. It's kind of like the same as Flash Gordon, that kind of whole. It's a fun era to kind of get involved in.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so, aside from that, like I think your discussion about themes and narrative elements in board games, and I find that to be quite interesting too. But like, when I think about games like Gloomhaven and Descent and everything else in that genre where you have a series of linked scenarios that have some sort of narrative, whether that narrative is strictly like on rails or there's many branching sports. I just don't play campaign games anymore. Just for the time element, and also something else I was thinking is that like they go in this narrative direction. So in a sense, they may scratch an RPG itch in a lot of ways, but they can't go all the way there because because with a role playing game, like there's almost no shackles. Whereas a board game, you have to, just by its nature, have a finite number of choices. And with the time commitment these campaign games tend to have, I look at that and I'm like, I may as well be playing an RPG. That's kind of easy for me to say since I'm a most time game master anyway.
Right.
Like, I can get a group of people together to play a role playing game. It'd be different if I did not have that set of skills in my toolbox. I find it really interesting, and I think it's great. I think it's great overall. Like, people like Rob get something out of it. I know that he absolutely loves. We all know that he loves Gloomhaven.
Yep.
And like he's married to Frosthaven right now. Like, and I know that he enjoys the mechanics, but I think he also, from what I understand, he also enjoys the story elements. But like, it's something that he can engage with on a way that his brain functions.
And that was the conversation that we had in chat. Like Rob was saying that, the avowed beige cube pusher Rob, right? That doesn't like theme. He's not ever really, I don't think we're ever going to get him to sit down and play a D&D campaign, right? We're not going to get him into RPGs, but playing Gloomhaven and now Frosthaven, even with the more branching arcs that Gloomhaven and Frosthaven compared to Jaws of the Lion, it gives him that quasi RPG experience,
right?
The theme, and it's enough for him because he's still shackled by the rules of the game. And that's why he loves it, right? And I'm not trying to like say I don't like Gloomhaven. My wife and I are playing Jaws of the Lion. We really like it, but we both complain that like we're a couple levels up and we have these cards, but our hand size is never going to get bigger, right? We're only going to get the 10 cards or 12 cards, and I have 15 or 20 to choose from, and I'm like, well, but I'm a 5th level rogue and I want more to do, right? Because like in our brains that are sort of wired because we're role play gamers as well as board gamers. Gloomhaven is just not enough for us, right? We like it and we're going to play through it and love it, just like we love, Pandemic Legacy. But we want to create more in the scenes there and more in the role playing than a standard board gamer might, and that's where Rob loves Gloomhaven, which I love. And that was really kind of a revelation, I think, this past week, just talking about like, why am I not just in love with Gloomhaven? And I'm like, that's why. It's that rails that is keeping me on a track that I can't use all the cards I have every time, type thing. That's holding me back from like absolutely just over the moon about the game. So, yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Well, thank you again for another titillating conversation.
It's not 10 o'clock yet.
Anytime.
I just wanted to use that word. They got to call me out, Wayne. Good night, Ron Fraser. We appreciate you.
You guys take care.
See ya.
See ya.
Low and slow there. Yeah.
So just a comment on what we were talking about there.
Yeah.
You have some people that they want to be on rails. They want a story. Yeah. They want to be fed this story, and they want to partake in what's going on with the story, but they probably don't want the whole DM, sandbox type of feeling to it. Just let me go on this rail. Give me a couple of choices here and there, but keep me on the rails and let me get to the end of this story.
Yep.
The good thing is that there's stuff for everybody out there.
Absolutely.
And everything in between. Like we were just talking about Sleeping Gods. That one's a little bit more off the rails and more sandboxy, and you can always take the next step and go all the way up to RPGs if you want to. And there are some people that just don't want to, may not feel comfortable getting into that character that you really need to for an RPG.
And that's why I'm interested to see. I know later this year, coming to Kickstarter or whatever, is the Gloomhaven RPG setting.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how well that does, right? So how many of the Gloomhaven fans are more like, or Gloomhaven players are more like me, who I'd be down for their setting, because I kind of like the world,
mm-hmm.
and I would love to have that setting book. And how many of them are like the Robs, or go, yeah, I'm not going to ever play that, so I'm good, right? So it'll be interesting to see sort of where that RPG setting does, and that might tell us a little bit about the players of Gloomhaven, right? Or the fans of Gloomhaven? Are they in it for the Rails story?
The
and
Euro,
the
or
Euro, the
story?
mechanic, so that'd be interesting. But I
Are they-
suspect it's going to do really well anyway. Because
Are they going to be using like an established rule set, or are they doing their
that's
own
what I'm not
thing?
sure. I'm not sure if it's going to come out in D&D 5e or if it's not. If it's going to be its own.
I
own
would hope
setting.
they use their own rule set, because part of what I did enjoy about Gloomhaven was the innovativeness
of
Mhm.
of that
cards.
card system.
Yeah.
that,
Right.
that dual use card top bottom. Pick
I mean,
one
they
for the
may
top,
do
pick one
some
for the
kinda-
bottom.
Yeah, and they may do some kind of quasi, open world, but here's some cards, or
Yeah, and I can
here's-
see them maybe doing a bit of both, right?
Right.
They could have their own setting and then have, if you want to use 5e, here's the rules for 5e, because you almost kind of have to do that nowadays, either 5e or Pathfinder, because most people want it that way.
Oh, as a setting supplement,
Right.
for the 5e system.
Could be an expansion, like or a kick stretch.
It'd be too
goal.
limiting if they did their very own proprietary system, because it's again another system somebody has to learn versus 5e.
Right. Yeah. Which that'll be-
Dusdorf in the chat here says he played Settlers of Catan for the first time in years.
How'd that
I've
go?
been thinking about it. Like, that's something that I've been wanting to do.
I commented. I think it's I still think Settlers of Catan is a good game. It's not a great game, right? As far as comparing to the modern last 20 years of board games, but it's still an okay game. It's still a fun game.
Sure.
And especially if you add Seafarers, makes it even better, and it's worth playing it every so often. That's what, like, you guys last week talked about the, brass and the whole rigmarole, them taking over Gloomhaven and all that stuff. And we've also had that conversation on Discord and other stuff of like, I don't even look at the BGG ranking #1 game anymore. I go back in and resort by number of rankings, the number of people who have rated a game,
Interactions with that ranking.
right? Versus, and if you pull up that list and you look at the top 10 games, right? And it's right now it's Brass and Pandemic Legacy and Gloomhaven and blah 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 blah. If you resort it by number of rankings, it drastically changes that top 10 to Carcassonne and Ticket to Ride and Catan and
You probably get some of the older games.
Terraforming Mars is up there. Wingspan is up there. It's a different ranking. So if you go number of votes and sort it the other way around. Oh, click it one more time. So yeah, all right. So look at that: Carcassonne, Catan, Pandemic, Seven Wonders, Terraforming Mars, Dominion, Codenames. That's a different list. Ticket to Ride, Seven Wonders, Azul, Wingspan. They're
all good games.
They're all great games, and they're all games that anyone in the game industry, from newbie player to super experienced, would enjoy. It's a different list.
No, it's Puerto Rico.
Yeah, Puerto Rico's up there. Yeah. But I just think that's almost a slightly better way of even looking at.
Oh, I love me some Small World.
I mean, think about it. Like, Small World's got 68,000 votes, right? That's a lot of on.
It's a lot of interaction. There's a lot of people that cared enough to rate it.
Exactly, and that's what you think about it is, when you think about Gloomhaven, how many people play Gloomhaven, right? Granted, they've got 30 or 50,000 votes, which is a lot, but the number of people who play Gloomhaven versus the number of people who played Catan, right, is drastically different. And you're not going to play Gloomhaven unless you want to play Gloomhaven. Most people have tried Catan.
Right.
Hello, welcome to Beans and Dice Podcast. State your name. Where are you calling from?
Hello, happy Thursday, gentlemen. This is Nick from Wesley Chapel.
My man, how you doing,
What
Mr. Oben?
Come on, Nick.
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here. I just tuned in to hear you guys trying to do some hot take interpretations of how Rob likes his Gloomhaven / Frosthaven, and as the I think I can self-proclaim myself the world authority insofar as third-party observer of Rob playing that game.
I can't argue with that. Go ahead, man.
It's true.
Yeah.
You received that
Thank
achievement.
you. That's right. Because I think I only have Joe beat by the games, Carlos, that you played as the as the brute, right? So it was you, Rob, and I for a scenario or two, and then Joe took over. But I've been there for every play that Rob has ever had. So, and I can assure you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I won't speak much for him, but I can assure you he does not play it to try to imagine in any way, shape, or form it as an RPG. Like, not even remotely close.
He doesn't ask for the motivations of the monster before he kills him. No. Was it because he had a bad upbringing? Was there a problem in his societal upbringing in the village where he grew up that made him so evil?
It's not quite the dialogue we have at the table.
Okay.
No.
What's the percentage of the odds of the number of as Rob clicks on his Casio calculator watch to figure it out?
Yeah, it really is. Funny. It really is. And Carlos, you hit on it. The system itself, the board game system. So Gloomhaven, I'll just refer to it as Gloomhaven. We're into Frosthaven now, but it's the same system. I'll just say Gloomhaven for the convo. Gloomhaven, the system as a board game, is amazing. It's phenomenal. It's the Euro-ness of it, right? The min-maxing, the optimizing the timing of when to burn cards or not burn cards, when to go for the treasure or not. But even then, it's kind of like, can I afford to move 3 spaces this turn, or can I afford to only do 2 and save the card for another play later on, right? I mean, It's entirely turn-based, systematic, maximizing of your efficiency as a team.
You got to throw that dig in there on me. Carlos, don't do it because the odds are no. That's fine. I'm just gonna kick this door down. We're gonna do this right now. No, the odds.
Carlos, Leroy Jenkins.
I'm all Han Solo on that thing. I'm all like, never tell me the odds.
Yeah, no, and it's funny. It's funny. Right before I called in, you just that's it. Just before I called in, it's so funny. I was sitting here actually chatting with Joyce for a little bit, being like, Gloomhaven is as much an RPG as Small World is, and that's literally the game that I used as my example in my head. And then you mentioned Small World right before I called in. I was like, okay, hold on, I gotta mention
the universes came together.
Insofar as I think the only people that look at Gloomhaven and say, oh, it's like an RPG, is because they see classes that look like wizards and races that look like orcs and cute little creatures that look like goblins that happen to tinker a little bit, right? Like there's enough verbiage overlap that it's like, well, surely these two things must have something in common, but they don't. They just
But
don't.
I think the other thing too is like, at least with Jaws of the Lion, like my wife and I that are playing through it, we bought the $10 app, which reads all the cards and reads all the.
So worth it.
It's so worth it. Reads all the in between
foreteller.
things. Like, the
Carlos
foreteller,
is
yeah.
giving
I'm
us the
sorry.
look.
What? Tell me more.
There's an app for Jaws of the Lion, Gloomhaven, and soon to be Frosthaven, I think, where all of the city cards and the in between missions and the mission intros and the mission final prologues and epilogues and all that stuff there's with music and there's
it's all done very professionally.
Yeah, it's really nice, and that is what makes us, my wife and I,
like Forbidden Seas,
makes us go into it.
Is it Forgotten Waters? That's the one.
Let's think Mansions of Madness, right?
Yeah, Forgotten Waters does that. The Plaid Hat game, they read everything for you.
Yeah. And so that app is
great. Middle Earth. Same thing.
Yeah. The app is great, but it also then puts my wife and I more into the RPG mode that we like, oh God, I want more.
It's like having a Diet Coke when you know you could have a real Coke.
Right,
Right, and you're right, and I do dig that. So I played D&D. I like the characters. I will role play. I think that is fun. So I agree. So we're using the app for Frosthaven, and it is cool. It's neat that none of the actual players have to read. You get the background sound effects. You get the professional voice acting, like Michael, you mentioned. It's great. It's really good. And I agree that it sets this tone and caters to folks looking for that RPG. But you're still going to do exactly the scenario you're supposed to do in exactly the way you need to do it to win. And there is you're on those rails, right? And at no time, I think the game doesn't let you forget the game, right? The game itself doesn't let you forget that you're on those rails. You're picking 2 cards on this turn. You're going in the initiative that you chose. You're doing the top and the bottom of each of the 2 cards, and then you're following the rules. So it's such a tight system, which is what makes it fun for board gamers, for tabletop gamers. It's a tight, well-controlled, and well designed system, like the D&D systems are. But there's none of that fanciful imagination built in, really. I mean, we go entire 2-hour scenarios and kind of forget to like say the name of the card we're playing, right? Like, oh, what are you doing? Like, no wizard, no self-respecting wizard would ever cast Fireball without telling you they're casting Fireball, right? That's what I'm doing right now. I'm lighting that shit on fire. Yeah. Here we'll play Gloomhaven. We'll play Gloomhaven Frosthaven, and we'll say I played 2 cards. My initiative is 53. You play what? My top card doesn't attack. My bottom card doesn't move. And that's the turn, right? And we're not trying to be uninventive or unimaginative. It's just the game doesn't need us to role play. Yeah, the game doesn't need us to role play, and so we don't. And there you go. That's. I think.
I guess if you want to see that in action, if you want to see, actually the opposite of that, I'll say in action. Watch the videos that Nick and I and Dan and Rob put up on the Jaws of the Lion. We did the first 5 scenarios together, and you'll see how Dan and I are in there just kind of role playing it up, having fun. I'm talking about, I'm going in there like it's a techno club with my glow stick on strings as I talk about the chains that I'm using to destroy these bad guys. Right. And then you can kind of see where, we went our separate ways as groups for the Gloomhaven game, because I can only do so much of that mechanical life and keep my attention. The dopamine isn't there for me. Right. The fun stories, the laughter isn't there for me to keep my attention.
Yeah. No, and I enjoyed that, by the way. I remember your techno dancing, flipping, chain throwing too. I mean, that was fun. That was fun. But I think that I was trying to like figure out, because it's funny. I like role playing. I would do it more, but I think that last line I gave inadvertently was like my big punchline. I think the game doesn't make us role play, so we don't. And I think that's where it works for Rob, and then it works just fine for me and Joe as well. But that's the thing, is nothing about the game mechanics says, okay, you actually have to roleplay now, otherwise it's no fun, right? Whereas I think D&D would be super dry and weird to try to systematically break down and not roleplay, right? That game needs you to roleplay, otherwise why are you there?
I remember the first game of Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion we did, right? And we you kill a bunch of like wormlings on the road, right? And that's it, right? So the wormlings are dead, and the scenario's over. I'm like, oh yeah, that's it for the scenario. My wife said, what about the gold that they left on the floor? I'm like, well, we didn't.
It disappeared.
Yeah. Like a video game. We didn't pick it up during the thing. So she's like, no,
it's defund.
No, house rule. The room's clear. We loot the room before we move on. Because the RPG in her is like, wait, I'm on a road and I just killed a bunch of goblins. I'm not gonna go loot them. Like, come on,
right?
Like that's where the disconnect happens for us. Is like, come on, really? I wouldn't go loot that room. I would absolutely loot that room.
Yeah, no, it's funny. And every time we have this conversation, I feel like we dig deeper, because that is a great call out right there. That's that exact happening. There's loot on the floor. What do you mean I can't get it? And if you fully look at the system through the lens of that tabletop game, it makes perfect sense, because you didn't take the time, you didn't spend the action points, whatever mechanism you want to think about, right? You didn't spend the action to harvest that resource. And so, of course, you don't get it.
It makes you wonder, like in Isaac Childress' game group, was there not like one tabletop RPGer that stopped to say, well, wait a minute. We cleared the room. Like, we got all the time in the world.
Yeah. At least get a
nobody stepped up.
There's a percentage of it or something, right?
Right.
No, but Nick, I like what you say. The way you say that, Nick, I love that analogy right there. Is you didn't spend an action to harvest the resource. That's the Euro part of it right there. That's the Euro game.
Everything has a cost, and because you didn't spend the cost, you don't get the reward.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's what does make it balanced as a tabletop game, as opposed to, the potential for imbalance in RPGs where it can swing drastically depending on how the story goes and what the DM does, what the characters do, and all that kind of stuff, which is, of course, the fun and allure and charm of RPGs. So there you go. The only other thing, I don't want to spend the whole time talking about Rob's opinion of Frosthaven, if he's not here to defend himself.
But everything he would agree with everything we said. So
yeah, I think so. I think we're safe. So we're moving on while we still are. Hey, I finally unboxed Mosaic, as all true fans of the Dice channel are
Good man.
distinctly aware of now. Yeah, so I not only did remove the shrink wrapped box from its cardboard coffin, but I did in fact unbox it, punch it, have gone through the rules, and it looks good. I see why Carlos played it like 17 times in a day or whatever he did last week. It looked
5
really
times
good.
in like 6 days. It was great.
Well, I didn't. So what's funny is I had so little. As much as you guys have been talking about it, I have missed every play. I have missed every rules explanation. I actually knew very little about this game that was sitting in cardboard this whole time. So I didn't realize that it was like such a deep action selection game there with like the placement control, area control, and it feels like it's going to be quite Euro-y, actually. And like, on your turn, you pick an action, like one of 8 actions or something, and just move on with your life. So I'm excited about that.
I think I said it was when we my first play, my first view of it was, this is everything I think Tapestry should have been. Like a Euro-y Civ building, not 4X in a sense, but at least Civ building game. And that's what I had hoped Tapestry would be. Mosaic did that in its first time I played it. So then I went back and played some Tapestry, enjoyed it, and then went back and played some more Mosaic and really started to enjoy its pace, its speed, the fact that I can get it played in like 2 hours, and exploring all the different options now of the different civilizations. Like, I'm totally fine with randomizing which civ I get, which leader I get, and just trying to figure out how to build off that one leader.
Yeah. And I think it's
saying something for you. That's good.
Yeah, because even in TI4, I just want to be extra. That's it.
That's it. Turtles.
I just want to be turtles every time. Here, I'm like, ooh, who do I have now, and how do I win with this?
It's got so you got the civilization and your leader. You have area control like El Grande, where you control certain areas of military and certain building structures. You have the card play, and then there's the resource multiplication. There's a lot going on in that game that is really good. I've only played that one time with you guys, and it was initially famously I was grumpy as heck at the beginning because I'm like, I made some bad choices. And then I
we're
realized
like round 2. We're like, dude, do you want us just to re-rack?
No,
we hear you itching and moaning.
Yeah.
Do you want us just to re-rack? He said, no, I'm fine.
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah. But it was because
and then you beat us by like 80 points.
I did, actually. But no, it was interesting because I learned quickly. Like I made some really.
No,
bad
I think
decisions.
he was going for the sympathy play.
No,
I'm gonna be salty and angry.
It wasn't Lou
and get their sympathy.
No, it was.
Leave me alone over here. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that. But no, it was interesting because eventually it took me half the game to build an engine, and then that kicked, right? And I got lucky there at the end because eventually Carlos and Rob, I think, went military and were fighting in one corner for a while. But I think there's a lot in that game that it's you can be pretty dynamic with it. So.
No, it's cool. I'm excited to play it. Carlos, it is interesting to hear you talk about how you can get it played in what I assume you're meaning is a short time. You mentioned 2 hours. 2 hours for you is a lengthy play, if I may put words into your mouth.
But not for a Civ builder. Like for a Civ builder,
okay.
I'm over here used to Clash of Cultures. We're looking at 3.5 hours,
sure.
4 hours. TI4, we're looking at 15, right? when we play, 15. So for a Civ builder, it's
pretty quick.
To me that's tight.
We played with 4 players.
I do want to see it at 6. I do want to see it at 6. So Odak's talking about he hasn't had a chance to play. Maybe we'll set up a game day to try to get 6 full seats and see how long it takes.
So we played 4 player in 2.5 hours, and that was with Teach. So that was pretty quick. I'm interested to see though. So I know Will and Nick have the big fancy versions, and you have the retail version. I almost want to play the retail version to see if it not changes my opinion, but like it does it color the opinion of how the game plays. Because now, and Carlos, you've played both. You bought the retail.
I had this conversation with Rob last
Okay.
week after the show. This exact same conversation. For me, I really felt the retail version was better for first-time players of the game. Right off the bat, all the tiles that are there for the cities, the farm towns, the manufacturing towns are two-sided. They have the same artwork on both sides, but one side has just artwork, and the other side has the words: city, port city,
nice,
farm town, manufacturing town. So it's real easy to tell what's on the board. All of your infantry and military units will say infantry, siege engine, cavalry, right? So everything is real easy to see on the board exactly what it is when it's tiles. It's definitely not as pretty as the miniatures, but really that's the main difference. And when it came to metal coins, I just used my scythe coins. I already got a sack of scythe coins. I couldn't tell the difference.
right?
Outside of that, I can't think of any other differences. Miniatures and metal coins.
Yeah,
I don't think there were any other differences in the big edition. What else is there, Nick?
I mean, I don't have the plebeian version, the retail, so I don't know. I can tell you what's.
Oh, he's on. He can't see. I had my glasses were sliding off my face, so I had to use my middle finger.
Thanks for the call,
to bring
Nick.
my
We'll talk to
glasses
you
back up.
later.
No, but like so.
Actually, I can normally when I normally unbox. It's funny. Actually, this is one thing I hate about any kind of deluxe edition. And I don't mean to sound like a jackass, but I don't like that they still give you the normal components. So now you just have duplicates, right? And so but that normally is
I'll take your tokens, bro. If you don't want them, I'll take your punch board.
That's the only exactly the only way I can tell the difference normally between the deluxe and the standard whenever I do a deluxe is like, oh, okay, they give me a bunch of cardboard coins and I have metal coins. Well, I guess I can see what the cardboard ones looked like. Great, good for me. So you're right. I mean, the military units, I have like little mini dudes. I have like actual bunch of plastic minis for every color. Then the tiles for like a bunch of the wonders, I have mini versions of the wonders, but then like the actual like the cities, the port cities, the farm, that all stuff, all those are still tiles. I don't know if it's a different tile, but it's just cardboard punch outs, I think.
See, and that board is so hard to manage also because the size of the board, even though the board is big, but it has a large area of the Mediterranean that it's covering, right? But when we had the minis, trying to be like, okay, I've got 5 infantry and 2 cav here,
right,
and we're trying to bunch them up into a corner to say they're in this region. It was so much easier with the tokens because I was able to stack all my military units in one tall stack. And then the other player had their stack, and I can tell that I had more military than they did. I didn't have to count individual minis. So there's a plus and minus to it. But most importantly, I'll take your cardboard tokens that you don't need.
Okay, that sounds good. Actually, it's funny because, real quick, just based on the pictures you posted of your plays, that's so funny because I was like, oh, when I was reading through the rules and how military units are just in a region, a whole region. And so that's like all of a sudden the pictures you posted, I think it was when you played with your son and how he went military and you kept on showing pictures of like his big stacks of military units. I was like, oh, those make sense now that like you just have to put them kind of near the region. And then the first thing I thought of was, how are these minis going to work? Like, this is not going to go well with like trying to see like 10 over here and 12 over there. And how many is that? Like instantly that was my thought, like because of how they did military and it's just going to be a big old stack of things per region. It's much better.
Yeah, I'll do you a favor, Nick. I'm going to give you all my cardboard infantry and cavalry tokens. You just hand those minis over here. You don't even got to worry about it no more.
He has the cardboard tokens. He doesn't need.
That's right. He can choose to use those.
So that's it. It's funny is Samantha in the chat. She said she's played both, so the fancy version and didn't see a difference. But then James Odak's like, nah, you play the fancy version, you can't go back to retail. But I think it's hilarious. I think at Dice Tower, not Dice Tower, Escape. My God, my brain. At Your Turn Con, Will picked up his copy of Mosaic, and he sat there for like an hour
Oh, punching everything.
punching everything before he realized that everything he was punching was from retail.
That was
And
pretty
he-
funny.
And he didn't need to punch any of it.
Yeah, again, that's what I told you. That is on one hand, I guess I understand that the publisher feels like if you pay for deluxe, maybe it's even easier for them to print the game. I don't know. Print them all with all of the standard components, and then the deluxe box gets what it gets extra. But for me, and it sounds like we'll experience this. If I paid for minis and you're handing me minis, don't also hand me the cardboard cutouts. Like that's to me is just wasted space and time and money and all the stuff. But whatever.
Okay, I will say that Mike, have you played Mosaic yet?
No, I want to
Okay.
so bad after hearing you guys talk about it.
The biggest problem with this game that I'm having, and I love Tableau builders, I do. Terraforming Mars, with the Imperial Settlers, right? All these different 51st State, I love them. But this gets crazy. The amount of cards that you're able to gain in this game and put down in front of you, because there's no additional action required to play a card, right? You can pick up one card around, but there's no extra actions to play cards. So you're just grabbing card after card and throwing them down. As long as you meet the prereq, there's no room on the table. And you have to have all your tags showing so you can see how many tags of what you have in order to grab some of the achievements, the civilization achievements and the golden age achievements. There's not enough room. And so I was looking at the pledge manager now for the late pledge. They have these player boards, these extra large player boards. I'm thinking to myself, why more player boards? Like, there's no more room for anything on this table. But they've got dials for tags.
Oh, really?
So
That's
the
big.
the extra large
Hey.
player board.
in my one play, that was my problem. Is I had 30 cards, and then you got to count all the little tags. And I'm like, man, I really wish there was some way to me just say I have 31, I have 15 of this tag,
Right.
instead of I always have to go through and count every time. Where am I? Where am I with this? Do I have 10?
And then endgame scoring, you're literally just counting tags the whole time.
Yeah,
You know, I feel like a dermatologist on a diabetic patient just counting skin tags. Just
Yikes.
let me stop.
Oh, James Odak dropping the table hog, which is. Carlos, did you see the joke in Discord today?
I missed that.
Mr. G says he's going to create a game about pig farming and call it Table Hog.
Trademark, copyright.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
No, but
Hey, guys,
it is terrible. It is terrible.
Yeah, that's my one complaint was counting the tags.
Well, Carlos, coming soon to your Etsy shop, I'm sure. Little Mosaic companion dials. There you go.
I'm working
Get it
on
done.
it. I'm gonna make some. I already made the wooden player boards. I'm gonna figure out how to add dials to that.
You're a beautiful man. Awesome. All right, I'm going to let you guys go.
Good night, homie.
I got you past. Made you past the 10 o'clock hour. That's my job every week.
Yeah, I got to get my NyQuil in me and get rested and get back to work.
Get your NyQuil in you. Wake up on the bathroom floor.
See you, Nick.
Have a good night, guys.
Bye-bye. Sam in the chat asks, did retail come with a score pad? No, it did not. But I heard that the expansion will come with a score pad. So I am looking at getting the expansion. I believe the expansion will have a score pad. I did print out some score sheets that I found on BGG.
Laminate one.
I can't keep up with how. I mean, your production of laminated sheets it just makes me say, you know what? I'm not even going to try. I'll just hand draw it.
You got it.
But no, I printed out some score sheets because that's the other aspect of Mosaic that I think is the negative piece is the scoring. Trying to get to the end scoring, going through each of the cards, and there's no scoreboard in the retail version, unlike the deluxe. The deluxe comes with a scoreboard. There is no scoreboard on the retail version. So, and there are some times where you'll play a card that gives you some instant scoring. So it's like you have to manually write down somewhere.
What?
You know what the score was.
There's not that score like.
Nothing.
Really? Okay.
No score pad, no score sheet, nothing.
Wow. Okay.
Now the thing is that I want to steal if I want to make a score like card or plate or something for the game, But there is no better scorecard or score plate than the score sheet from or the scoreboard from Smartphone Inc. Like that is the most minimalistic, perfectly working score like tableau or table I've ever seen in a game.
It could stand to be dual layered.
But why though? Because you can only put one. You still have to stack
jump
cubes.
Around so easy, man.
You still have to stack cubes.
Yeah, I mean it is what it is. But anyway,
I still find it the best.
I just find it funny that they consider things that belong in the deluxe version that are like standard things, like a score tracker.
Yeah, like, it's crazy.
That's pretty funny.
That seems like a little cheap to not do a score pad for the retail version.
I don't know if did the score pad come. I don't think the score pad came in the super deluxe either. Did it? I don't think so. I don't think it was until the expansion that they added a score pad. Because I don't remember William having a score pad when we scored. I don't think.
No, but there was that sideboard where if you scored
Yes.
during the game, you can track it during the
You
game.
can't call that a sideboard. You are
guess.
when
Not
your
a sideboard,
board
it's
is
part
the
of the-
size of a pandemic board, just for keeping track of score, it lost its place as sideboard.
That's true.
It is no longer sideboard. It is main board. It's like that's the main.
Yeah.
There you go. That's funny.
All right, that's what I had. That's it.
You're
I'm out.
spent, man.
I'm
I can
spent.
tell.
I'm done.
You're just out of it.
All good, man.
Which
Get that
I'm
Nyquil in.
sweating. Like I'm feeling it. Like that cold sweat is bad.
Oh yeah, you're sick.
So we did our roll. Oh, new hauls. Thank you, Diego. Tuning me into Marvel Dice Throne. It was on sale on Amazon for like $32.
Nice.
So the boys have been picking through this thing, man. Roxley did a really bang up job with Dice Throne. So that came in this week.
Roxy does a great work, man.
The boards and the way they're stacked inside of the bins, all compartmentalized, super nice. And then also in the halls for this week, Aaliyah, which I cannot say the same praise for Aaliyah.
Have you seen their Castles of Burgundy? They're not.
But that isn't even it. It's the coffee. Like I'm missing coffee.
What do you mean?
So in this first run
a lot of misprints.
of
Oh,
Puerto
really?
Rico,
Oh,
they're supposed to have.
You want to know why?
Why?
English is not their first language.
Oh, hey, my man. I say the art is gorgeous. Like I see the characters that are in here, and I see family members. Like I see the differences in color, the differences in facial features. Like they're all people that I've seen in my family. It's awesome. The buildings, they're places that I've been to. Right.
Oh, that's cool.
When I visited Ponce and visited family in different parts of Puerto Rico, it's on my table right now, my kitchen table, and I just love just staring at it right off the bat. You know, I got some artwork in the guest bathroom from Puerto Rico that kind of like it very much matches what's in this game. So mad props on that stuff. But where they messed up is they were supposed to have, I believe it was supposed to be 9 fruit tiles and 8 coffee tiles, but instead you ended up with like 13 fruit and 4 coffee.
Yeah.
So you don't have the components to play the game right.
You have to change a couple of fruits to coffee. Yeah. Yeah, that sucks because this was a good re-implementation of a game, a great game, to make it, more sort of acceptable to modern sensibilities. So, and actually, Sam in the chat, what's the difference between this and the OG? Really, none. It's the same game. It's just less slaves. It's just less.
Well, isn't it a different time?
Different time,
well?
but they move forward.
Yeah, they
right?
move forward.
It's
So
in
the
this very
workers
small
aren't-
period,
Yeah.
small period of Puerto Rican history, right after the Spanish are out,
Right.
but before the U.S. takes over as a
Takes over.
territory.
Territory.
Right, so it's
Where they were an
it's a
independent
small
nation.
period of it being an independent nation. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah. And so basically the biggest complaint with the original Puerto Rico has always been that the workers aren't really workers, right? They are slaves, right? And so this not retheme, but this modernization of the game is just taking it to a period of time in Puerto Rico where they were independent farmers, where they were people, working to try to build a fledgling nation before the United States took them over as protectorate. And so it just makes it a little bit more representative of the people from that country, so. And like Carlos, your family's from there. So, I mean, like.
No, I still remember the stories from my grandmother when she talks about not knowing it, her exact age, right? Because she just remembers at a certain point, somewhere around 7 or 8, they were called down from the mountainside from picking coffee to register at the city census, right? Like, oh, and what was your birthday? Oh, it was on around this time, right? And that's how they started writing everyone's stuff down. Yeah. I remember my mom had to go to Puerto Rico. This was in the last decade. My mom had to go to Puerto Rico to pick up all of our new birth certificates because all of our birth certificates before that were all handwritten from the hospital on a small 5x7 bifold piece of paper, cardstock paper. And it just had the signatures of everyone that was there, including my name. Nothing was official. So they just recently, made all these records electronic and official. So it's a very it's a beautiful game. But that coffee missing,
sucks.
I got no problems taking Sharpie to token. And I did that. I literally just drew onto the fruit tokens. I put a little coffee cup that I drew with Sharpie to say this is coffee.
I was going to say you could just tape a coffee bean to the top of it. Then it's kind of like you got minis in there.
When you stack them up, it might be a little weird.
There you go. Yeah.
And I think the retheme modernization of Puerto Rico is great, right? And I think what you could have done with the OG version too is just say just don't call it workers, right? But you really can't just call them who they were. They were slaves back in that time period, and so we've had that issue sort of with. What was it with Five Tribes, right? There were cards that were literally called, workers or slaves or various things. So it's just trying to be kind of just, accepting and sort of going like, hey, all right, maybe we shouldn't necessarily, use the terms or terminology that was used back in the day because it's not necessary, to have a great game. Because Puerto Rico is a great game, and you can make it a celebrated period of time in Puerto Rican history. That's cool, right?
It's funny in gaming because as a person of color myself, I get into some games and I still remember those moments, those first moments when I see something in a game and ask myself, why is that like that? Like my first game was Settlers of Catan, and they're like, oh, well, this is the robber. I'm like, well, why is he black? Because it was that first few editions, the robber was black. I'm like, why is the robber black? Like, why has he got to be black? And then they made him gray. Like, okay, so they're trying to get away from that. And I remember my first time playing Puerto Rico, and they busted out the brown disc, and they're like, all right, here's the colonist. And I'm like,
is the worker.
But
why they brown?
No, I'm the brown guy. No, it's not how it worked.
I think there's another game, like what is it, Mombasa, which got a retheme recently, which because it was just the cultural aspect of it was not necessarily.
And I didn't mind it as much. I ain't hit Ron Fraser. Me too, Carlos.
Yeah, me too.
Questions that we ask ourselves while playing board games, like why is it gotta be black?
And it's not even about it's just all about not even representation. It's really just about do we even have to? We can still have a great game and not have to deal with certain aspects of that as part of our gaming life. We can, not sidestep it, but learn about, like I said, how many people out there are going to learn about that small period of Puerto Rican history because of this game?
Yeah, and I think what I like about this one is the fruit is represented by plátanos, which is plantains.
That's what I'm talking about.
So it just hits on all the right notes. It showed up at my house on my mom's and my son. We did a birthday party Sunday. It showed up when I had family over, so everyone was looking at it. I was like, yeah, this is really awesome. So I'm glad to have it here. And Aaliyah does have a link where you can request the 4 tokens and they will mail it to you. They did tell me that they're short staffed and it will be delayed, but I'm okay. I've got my Sharpied up of my 4 extra into coffee, and I'm just going to use that for now.
Here you go.
So there's my last update for the night. Y'all have any updates for the folks at home?
Well,
really?
Got this in the
hold on.
Kickstarter
let me make him big. Maximum Wasted Wilds.
Maximum Apocalypse Wasted Wilds. Yeah.
What are we talking about here?
It's a new Kickstarter.
Tell me more.
A couple of expansions here. Let me see. That's kind of hard with the reflection there.
There you go.
It's like a Wild West, alternate Wild West.
Looks like 1920s, early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s.
It's well, I mean, this is really just the. Here, all right, so this kind of tells you what kind of problems I have with gaming. These are expansions to a game I haven't even played yet. So, maximum.
Hi, my name's Michael. Last time I bought.
Hi, Michael. Yeah. So that's part of my problem there. But anyway, I do have Maximum Apocalypse, the base game, and all those other expansions. This was just the latest Kickstarter. But it's by the same guys that did, it's by Rock Manor Games. Same guys that did Detective and Final Girl. And
cool.
So, and the artwork's pretty slick. And it's kind of survival, exploration. Lots of different
Seems to be a
types of
theme you're
characters.
into. Wastelands, 51st State, Maximum Apocalypse. It seems like it's a theme you're into.
Yeah, I enjoy that theme. Yeah, it's fun to,
You're a fan of The Last of Us, so there you go.
There you go. Yeah, I've got a few.
Are
other
those
games
bullet
like that
tokens?
too. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh, come on, man.
It's after 10 o'clock. He's allowed.
Jeez Louise. Yeah, but other than that, and I got all my promos delivered from the Man vs. Meeple promo thing.
Oh,
I haven't
nice.
even gone through these yet, but
Sweet.
anyway.
We should. Speaking of like when various other content creators do Kickstarters and have like promo packs,
Mhm.
we should probably just post like, "Hey, I only want this one promo," or "Who wants the rest of it?" And
I've done that before in the past where I just kind of pick what I want out of it. And
offer up to other people.
I'll usually throw it up, not necessarily in our group, but up on Facebook or something, and I'll say, just give me $1 for each one that you want,
Yeah. we can
and just
definitely do that.
try and
Pretty
recoup
cool.
a little bit of money. But then I think the last time I still had like a stack of them left, and I brought them to Escape WinterCon, and I just like
Oh, I remember that because
put them on the counter. I was like, if you want them, take them.
it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have a couple of promos that I'm never going to use. I'm going to bring them to Dice Tower East, see if people want them.
Yeah.
So, my only update, and I said it in Discord and on our Facebook chat, is my wife and I actually played our first game of Viticulture World this week,
Nice.
and man, she dug it. She really dug it. It was good because my wife likes like engine building games, but doesn't always like competitive, especially if it's 2-player. And so she really digs cooperative games. That's why we play Gloomhaven and Mansions of Madness and Pandemic and those kind of things. So the option of her creating or playing this engine building Euro-y type game and then doing a cooperative, she's like, oh, okay. And we played the Green Gully one, that the intro one that Robin, Carlos, and I played, and we won.
Kicked our butt.
It kicked our butt, but my wife and I won mostly because I knew the mistakes we made the first time. But no, she was like, "Oh, and there's like 7 continents now. I got to try them all." And she was digging it. So yeah, I think
cool.
Viticulture World is going to get played a few times this year for us.
Let me ask, what do you think about the teeth? Like, wifey likes worker placement. She's already she digs a lot of the worker placement games right off the bat.
Yep.
I think her brain just works that way. We haven't played Viticulture regular. What about that leap right into Vidi World?
I
Do you think it's a leap or
I don't think it's a leap.
just go right in?
I think if you wanted to do Viticulture World right away, you were good because especially that first game, that Green Gully
Walks you through most of it.
through the rules, and it's really not that many more rules. It's really just the only rules is the seasonal workers, right? And then here's build your engine, right? So I don't think it adds tremendous more complexity to viticulture, other than just what innovation tiles you want to put out, right?
Okay,
and then getting that influence up. So I think if you wanted to play cooperatively, you could play a game of just regular viticulture and then move into cooperative. But we dug it. I think
a lot
good.
of the same points that you shared about gaming it with your wife are the reasons why I would want to play it with my wife.
Yeah. We like cooperative games as a couple. 2-player, if we play 2-player game, Lost Cities or Jaipur or whatever, it's great. But bigger Euro games, I don't think she necessarily loves to play just 2-player. She would love to play 3 or 4-player. But the fact that we can play it cooperatively, she was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" And so we've played Wingspan Duet, which she liked, and now Viticulture World, which she really liked. And so I think both of those are going to be getting to the table a few more times this year, as of course of as we go through games and stuff. So yeah, we enjoyed it, and I hope to play some more continents in the next couple of weeks or months, and I'll report back.
I'm going to get it to the table.
Sweet.
I'll report back, let you know how it hit over here at the Cabrera household.
Cool.
All right, folks. Well, that's about as much as you're going to get out of me tonight. I'm going to bed.
We're past the hour. You're good, man.
Thank you all for joining in and watching. All the comments in the chat, we appreciate each and every one of you. And we will be back Thursday. Hopefully, Rob will be back to join us Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. We take your phone calls to talk about games that you've been up to. We'll catch you all on the next one. Good night, everybody.
See ya.
See you
Thanks
guys.
for watching the Beans and Dice podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
That dang cat, always meowing.
I didn't hear him tonight.
He's there now.
Mine was